Zátopek and Landy, to me, epitomised what competition's about. Zátopek would go out of his way to help somebody because he wanted to beat them at their best. It was a philosophy that I liked. I mean, if I could help somebody, I would, because I wanted to make sure you were running at your best. Because what fun is it to me to beat you if you're not at your best, you're not feeling comfortable, that you're not feeling right. I mean, that's the test of the competition. I often had sensations of training of just sitting there and the legs were going and I was just sitting and drifting along. I revelled in the feeling that running gave me, of this huge fitness, of this bounciness. It was a fantastic feeling, an alive feeling. You know, I loved it, absolutely loved it.
It was the great Australian miler John Landy who once described Ron Clarke as a performer of fantastic feats of endurance who could though be beaten by a relative unknown and seemingly was unmoved by either eventuality. A few unknowns quickly changed their status. The feats of endurance drew comparison with the master, Paavo Nurmi. 18 world records from 3 miles to 20,000 metres. Few athletes lived better with triumph and disaster or more typified the Olympic ideal of the greater importance of taking part. But the altitude of Mexico City denied him his champion's laurel. And in the Commonwealth Games too, the gold medal remained just out of reach.
With just over 200 metres to go, it's Clarke, and Stewart goes through. 200 metres away from the gold medal, the world record holder leads, the Scottish record holder second. Taylor is lame a bit. Round the crowd of the band, and Stewart moving up to attack Clarke. Clarke Australia and Stewart of Scotland. And Stewart is getting away. It's Stewart of Scotland all the way, and he's got them all. And the crowd going berserk as Ron Clarke concedes defeat to Lucky Stewart.
Clarke's last chance of gold had gone. He retired with 4 silver medals from the Commonwealth Games and 1 bronze from the Olympics. 11 years later, in December 1981, Clarke underwent open heart surgery to cure a leaking valve. A non-smoker and teetotaler, no medical opinion will shake his belief that his efforts in the thin air of Mexico City was responsible.
Does that add to the bitterness that you feel about being denied your fair chance in the Olympics?
It does a bit now, yeah. It does. I think it's a proof that authorities should look a bit more closely about what they do.
And there should never be another Olympic Games in Mexico City?
No, or in the middle of the desert either. I mean, I think it's just as bad.
Today, at just 49, the Victorian from Melbourne still runs for fun, and at a pace which would question his recent medical history. His track now is the hills and lanes of a Georgian manor on the edge of Bath, as the fitness club of the City Merchants of Cannon Street branches out into the fresh air of the Mendip Hills.
Ron, running has been your life. Can you tell us your first memory?
I have to almost contradict you in one way, and it really hasn't been my life. The whole point about running in my career was it was a fairly minor part of it. I mean, it twisted it around a fair bit. But my first love in sport was football. I was from a football family. My father played 150 games or something. I won best and fairest with Essendon, and that's Australian rules.
Yeah, football. I was going to say, we better make it clear which type of
which football, yeah, Australian rules. And my brother was probably one of the best players ever produced in Australia. I was trying to be a footballer. And in fact, if it wasn't for a football accident when my finger was all smashed, I wouldn't have run at all. But I was playing football and got this all smashed up and couldn't play it anymore because you have to catch the ball. And therefore I did the next best thing, which was running.
And do you actually regret not having been in Australian rules football?
No, I was very lucky. I mean, Australian rules are so insular. And Jack, for all his talent, had to pay for his own trips around the world, and I think the world is a very big place, and I wouldn't have found out about it. I mean, I was very, very lucky to be able to be fortunate enough to find some talent that I didn't know I had.
What was the family? You had one brother only?
Just one brother, yeah. Father, mother, one brother, all thoroughly. My father was the curator at the Essendon Football Club, so we spent all our time running, jumping, chasing footballs, mowing grass, doing everything at Essendon.
His mother fully played her part in a male-orientated family. Jack, 4 years older than Ron, was a brother to look up to and to follow, be it in football or succeeding to the school cross-country title. The young athlete later had contact with the Aussie example of the day, John Landy.
I remember he wrote me a 5-page letter on training, and the start of it saying, I haven't got, I'm sorry, but I'm on my way overseas. This will be just a quick note because I'm told you're interested in learning some training. And it went on for 5 pages. I mean, it's a sort of guy Landy was, really describing the way, not giving you sessions, but describing on the way you should cope with training. Really very essential, the essence of simplicity. Don't train too hard and don't make it too easy, it's just a balance.
He was very much a hero of yours, wasn't he?
Yeah, there still is. I think I think I grew up exposed to football players who were heroes in Australia. They used to come home for dinner, and we used to go out on Sundays, picnics with them, etc. So I was always exposed to people in the news. But Landy was the man that, and still has the most respect that I've ever had for anybody else, be a sportsman or a businessman.
Middle of the field when they settle down, though he's quickly going up to fifth.
John was feeling a bit guilty because he didn't get out and lead, and often because the crowd had come to see him run well, he had this guilty complex as well about it. He was feeling rotten, yet he was still following. I tried to move up on Plummer and move out because there's only about 1.5 laps to go to get on his shoulder ready to actually take off. And when I switched, Henderson, who was tight behind me, clipped my heels, so I fell sideways that way and he fell in on the edge of the track. He stayed on his feet because he was balanced in that he clipped him with my right foot and he fell on his left. I fell right in front of the field and they all...
For the British, Vancouver, the Commonwealth Games, the great race against Roger Bannister. I mean, everything from our point of view went right. What was the Australian point of view?
Well, yeah, I don't think much of Bannister. I did when as far as athletic ability, I think he was very good. But I heard a broadcast after it when he was saying he was giving his all for God and country, etc., which I thought carried on a bit too much.
Bannister is kicking very definitely. He's passing Landy. Landy looks the wrong way.
But John Landy was a very sort of simple guy, and Landy had no excuses on the day, and I take it that Bannister was a better miler than what John was, and I think he was.
I think there was a story that the race could have had a slightly different ending.
A guy called Jim Bailey, who I got to dislike fairly intensely, and that he went across to America and was very bombastic. I don't like Sydney people much anyway, often because of their arrogance, and Bailey typified all the Sydney arrogance. He was a guy that often got disqualified in 2 Australian championships and a heat and final for stupid things, because he was one of the other Australians in that mile race, and he was saying, don't worry about it. Bannister won't get past me. And John was saying, look, don't do anything stupid. The whole world is looking at this race. I mean, you'll just take it away from Australia forever if you do something stupid. But he said, don't worry about it. But what he was saying, he didn't say to John, he was saying to Neil Robbins, he said he was going to go to the front in the first lap. And then when Bannister went past, just give him the old Blix's elbow, and Bannister would collapse in a writhing battle, and they would disqualify Bailey and make him a hero, and Landy would go and win. And the way Bailey saw it, he'd be the hero as much as Landy, and go down in the history books. But he broke his foot in the final of the 880, and he didn't compete much to everybody because they couldn't persuade him not to do it. He would have done it. It would have been sensational.
It was Bailey who was chosen instead of Clarke in the 1956 Australian Olympic team, but other factors played a part in that.
National service didn't help you too much, did it?
No, national service was dreadful. But I mean, there's a track in national service, but they wouldn't let me use it. It was all, and they overfed me. It was my fault too. Helen used to come up with all these chocolate cakes, which I hated army food. I used to have those stuck away in lockers things and eat those instead of the army food, etc. The army food was bad enough, but these were worse.
They've introduced into the conversation your wife. Now, you married her, what, in 1959? That's put you on the spot,
yeah. You know, there were one or two right decisions I made in life, and that was really one of them. It was fantastic. And marriage life to me has been superb. And you really, to enjoy your sport and to do your sport well or business well, you have to have good support of somebody else, I think. And you know, we've had 30 years or so of tremendous support and friendship and laughter and a lot of fun.
Was she disappointed that you didn't make the 56 Olympic team?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, she just virtually shared my disappointment and encouraged me. You know, I really didn't say, "Are you disappointed, Helen?" I just presumed that she was, yeah.
At 4:32 p.m. on November the 22nd, the Flame enters the stadium. Carried by 19-year-old Ron Clarke, holder of the unofficial junior mile record, the proudest man in the stadium.
The cliché didn't quite fit. He would have much preferred to have been in the team, even as an also-ran. And far from being inspired by the occasion, the torchbearer left the Flame for others, concentrating instead on his studies and marriage. Australian hopes for the next Olympics, in Rome in 1960, would rest at the feet of Merv Lincoln, Dave Parr and Herb Elliott.
I wished Herb had have not dropped the piano on his foot when I was running well, because I would have liked to have competed against him. When he was 17, he's a year younger than me.
And absolutely fantastic running over this last lap by Herb Elliott, the youngest runner in the field.
Herb had so much talent it didn't matter. I mean, I think he did most of his training wrong and still come out right. He just had to put a pair of shoes on and he would have won it.
Elliott's coach was a man who claimed he was not interested in athletics, only in achievement. Percy Cerity.
Now, the boxing boys, and I've had a little to do with those, Jackie Chris, Sammy Wheeler, Don Johnson, the American. You can't meet more lovely fellas, but in the ring they're killers. And they'll bash you down. Now, you've got to have that. And the fella you bash down in running is yourself. You can't triple punch your opponent, but you kill yourself rather than be beaten.
I suppose my big quarrel with Percy Cerity and Herb Elliott was this philosophy that you had to hate your people that you were competing against. I could not see anything in that at all. I don't reckon that helped one iota. And in fact, I think Herb stopped running too early, far too early. I mean, he was younger than me, and he retired. And he retired why? Because he wanted to protect an unbeaten record. I mean, if you ask Herb now, he admits it was stupid. But I mean, he was so zealous of an unbeaten record that he wouldn't compete. He got frightened to compete. Well, I mean, something's wrong with you if you're frightened to compete.
Clarke went to live by the coast, which did wonders for his sinus trouble. He qualified as an accountant and began learning another role as a father. But in 1961, a change in the family home brought him back to running.
We found a house closer to my employment. And when I shifted in there was a chap called Les Perry, who came 5th or 6th in the 5,000 metres against Zátopek, and he was a Zátopek fanatic. He was about the same height as Zátopek. He was bald, he had glasses, and he ran the same way. Every step looked like an agony. You know, he just threw his head around and grimaced and grunted and groaned, etc. And he helped me shift in. He lived just around the corner. He said, "Come for a run with me." And I said, "Great." I was about 23 or 24 or something. And I said, "Fine, yeah, sure, Les, I'll come for a run." And I ran with him and another friend of his who was the mayor of the suburb. Was also about 40 and grunted and groaned. And they had to wait for me at the top of hills. I just could not believe it. I said, you know, at 23, I'm middle-aged. I bet you was. So then I determined every night to go for a training run. And Les recommended a place called Caulfield Racecourse, which was a fabulous grass racecourse that everybody was allowed in to run on. And it was just kept in beautiful condition. And it was 1.25 miles and 100 yards around it, 10 yards in. You weren't allowed to run right on the fence where the horses competed of a weekend.
A season of cross-country sharpened his fitness, but the training at Caulfield seemed a million miles away from the 1962 Commonwealth Games in Perth, and even when Clarke made the team, he so dismissed his chances that the day before the 3 miles, he spent water skiing. But competition of personality turned an also-ran into a medalist.
I'd run against Bruce Tulloh in a 2 mile the week before in Geraldton, and didn't expect to beat him, but went very close, and he made all sorts of excuses after, including that he didn't know it was the last lap, and they rang a big bell and shut off. I almost caught him, so I was determined to I got upset about it, and I was determined to beat Bruce Tulloh.
There goes Bruce Kidd now in front. Bruce Kidd of Canada. It's going to be a sprint for it. It's Kidd of Canada leading. Halberg second. Ron Clarke third. And there goes Halberg. Halberg stolen the lead. Halberg's going to go right away. Tulloh going too. Tulloh now in 4th place, but he's let Halberg go a long way.
Toho went tearing past and I was off after Toho. And in fact, I beat Toho. It was a side product, a byproduct of beating Bruce Toho. he ran me to second position.
So second to Hallberger, you didn't even notice?
No. Oh, Hallberg was so far. I mean, it didn't matter. I had no hope of beating Murray anyway.
Hallberg now, 80 yards to go, and he's going to retain the title, and he must know it for certain. Having a look back at Toho is tiring badly. Hallberg coming home, and Telo's not going to get the silver. It's Ron Clarke of Australia coming with a strong run. Telo's beaten out of the medal. Hallberg's going to win this one. Hallberg retains the title for New Zealand. Second, Ron Clarke.
What followed was in no way a feeling that the medal had established him, but instead a curiosity as to how much he could improve. A year later, he knew. After a day at the office, a 6-mile run took Clarke into the record books.
Funnily enough, Neil Robbins, who helped me a lot early in my career, at that stage was working for an oil company in Adelaide, and he sensed that I was running well enough to break that record and actually flew across to watch. And if he hadn't have come, I wouldn't have broken the 10,000 metre record because I ran for the 6. I was concentrating on the 6. And I kept it going, and I just ran for the 6 mile mark, and even though I had another 400 yards or so, 398 or whatever it is, to go to the 10,000 metres, I was so far in front I'd lapped everybody 2 or 3 times, Cookie had pulled out, etc., that I stopped on the track and just prepared just to jog in the rest of the 10,000 metres and finish the race. It was only this big voice of Neil Robbins. He had a very big voice. And he used to call me Fat because that was my brother's nickname for me. Fat, you'll break the other one too, go for it. And it suddenly just electrified me. I didn't even think, I just took off. Even though the differentiation was something like 58 seconds between the 6 mile time and 10,000, which should only be about 48 or 50, I even got Blitnikov's 10,000 record, which we thought was far beyond us. I mean, I didn't even believe I could get anywhere near that.
What was your reaction?
I thought if I broke a world record, I'd be, walking in cloud 9, etc. And I wasn't. I mean, I was the same guy, and it was no different. And suddenly, a thing that I was striving for was gone, and I felt very disappointed. It was the lowest I ever felt, I suppose, after any run. It was after that first world record.
As an Australian, when you went to compete on the European circuit, there were a number of restrictions, weren't there?
We had this stupid rule which only Australia followed. It was a 28-day period overseas, which could be extended by permission to 42 by another 14 days. So, I mean, that meant I did ludicrous things. For example, I went and competed at one indoors, I remember, in Los Angeles, and that's meant an 18-hour flight at that stage from Melbourne to Los Angeles. I competed there on the Saturday night. I competed the following Friday night at San Francisco. But I came home betweenhand for 3 days. So I flew home and flew back to San Francisco to compete rather than just staying on the West Coast for 3 or 4 days. So that I wouldn't, A, because I wanted to do some work home, but B, mainly because I wouldn't lose that 3 days eligibility.
So very different from how it is today.
Oh, yeah, they don't come home today.
What was your expectancy in 1964 when you got to Tokyo?
To win the 5 and the 10. Now, what I never was going to do was Zátopek. I mean, I was entered in the marathon because I wanted to see Beeb the Killer in close quarters, and the only way to see it, and no other Australian, there was only one other Australian in it, so no other Australian was really serious in it, so there was a space for me. But I wasn't trying to win the 3 medals, but I expected to win the 5 and the 10.
For me, it was a form of self-hypnosis, and I visualized dozens of times a day. Then I started with my workout book. So in this particular notebook, as I got closer to the games, this was the summer of 1964, I believe in August, I put down, I'm in great shape, must believe I can run with the best in the world now, and I can beat them at Tokyo.
The problem he faced was how to improve his best time by almost 2 minutes.
Now, how do you improve almost 2 minutes? It's just too phenomenal to think in terms of 2 minutes or a minute and 50 seconds. So I just went to the simplest form of something I thought I could believe. Once around the track, 25 laps, I felt I just have to put forth that much more effort, a lap, and that's 25 seconds. To improve 50 seconds, each lap I'd have to stay on top of the intensity of my pace and that's 50 seconds. 2 2 laps to go. I'm on Ron Clarke's shoulder, and Ron looked back. My thoughts were, my God, he's worried. If I could just stay with him, I have a chance. I have a chance. We go into the last lap. I had Ron boxed in, perfectly boxed in. He nudged me a little. I nudged him back. And he gently put his hand under my elbow and just pushed me out. I thought I was going to fall. I went out, stumbled. I closed back on his shoulder. Kamoudi from Tunisia broke between us. At that point, I was going to accept 3rd place.
As we were coming up into the last lap, we ran into a lap runner, one of Gamoudi's teammates, as a matter of fact, and Billy.
Coming off the final curve, I could not hear any noise at all. I could hear the throb of my heart. I could hear the heartbeat pounding. I could feel a tingling sensation creeping down my forearm, my vision coming and going, but my thoughts changing from one more try to I can win, I can win, I can win. I could see the tape stretched across the finish line. 30 yards to go, my thoughts became over and over again. I won, I won, I won, but I'm still in 3rd place.
Mills is coming on. Mills, what a tremendous surprise here. Bill Mills of the United States wins the 10,000 meters. Bill Mills of the United States, a tremendous upset.
I chased Gamoudi, and Bill sort of tagged on behind us.
Focus for 4 years, dozens of times a day, visualizing, really reliving the moment the way you want it to be. And then you win. That one fleeting moment, you know you're the very best in the world.
But the 5, I had this idea at that stage that the myth, I think, of the Olympic Games that you read about so much, that the only medal worth winning is a gold medal, that there's only one kind, good guys finish second, whatever it was just, I thought the gold medal was all I was after in the 5,000 metres, and when I couldn't get rid of Jersey, and I virtually surged and eased and surged and eased.
And approaching the bell lay 4th, with a glance at those outside him. But as the last lap started, Clarke, number 12, quickly lost touch.
And I decided I'd just out-kick him over the last lap, but Dudok jumped me, and I just mentally quit. That's the only race that I'm ashamed of, and I was very ashamed of that race. I've determined never ever to quit another race again.
Even now, when you think about it, you're
it's a horrible memory. But I mean, all these things you have to rise from. I mean, you don't take lessons in life. Where are you going to get lessons from? And I've made a lot of mistakes. That was one of the worst.
Was that, in fact, your best chance of winning an Olympic gold?
Yeah, I think I had more. If I had won the 10, I think I would have won the 5. The confidence would have spread over. It's amazing just how little tricks of fate can frustrate you. But Jersey was awfully strong that year. I think if I was going to get beaten, if I had have run my race as it was, I think I would have run 2 seconds. I think Gamoudi would have beaten me in the 10, and Jersey would have beaten me in the 5.
In fact, both races were won by Americans. Mills, the 10, and Bob Schul, the 5.
Middle of this pack, and he's going to have to tear now if he's going to run.
And there they go, the bell lap. Jersey looks around to see who's coming up on him. Jersey out ahead.
And the Russian right at his shoulder.
That's Dutov coming up on him. Dellinger's 3rd, Norforth is 4th. Scholl is 5th. Bailey is 6th. Scholl is moving up. Scholl on the outside. Scholl is coming up on Norfolk. Jersey's out ahead. Scholl is 3rd. Bailey coming up in black behind Scholl. Jersey's out of front. Scholl is closing in on him. Scholl is passing Norfolk. Scholl is 2nd. He's closing up on Jersey. They're coming around the last turn. Here's Scholl trying to catch Jersey. Jersey out in front. Scholl coming up on the inside. And Scholl racing by. Scholl of the United States is leading. Scholl is coming in. Scholl is going to win it. Scholl is winning the 5,000. And it's the first American ever to win the 5,000. And I believe...
I'd win in the marathon. Everyone said I was after 3 medals, and that was ridiculous. Abebe had shown in Rome 4 years before that a marathon winner is not a 10,000 minnow. It's a different race completely and utterly. It's more than 4 times the distance. In Tokyo, Abebe had his appendix out, and he wasn't thought to be a major contender. I wanted to see the race, and the best way of seeing it is from the front. So I went fairly fast early, and a BB came up and tried to surge, tried to break us up. Jim Hogan and I were out by ourselves. A BB was there, and the rest of the field were a fair way back even then, because we set a pretty tight pace. I remember BB surging. I remember us beating a BB out and thinking, heck, he's quit already. You know, that was a pretty short-lived effort. And about the 10-mile mark, for some reason or other, I looked back and I found that a BB was just there, that a BB had been following me for 5 miles, and I didn't even have a sense that he was there. And usually you've got a sense that somebody's next to you, but he was so much the shadow that you didn't have the sense. And then over that 10-mile mark, he suddenly accelerated, and that was bye-bye a BB.
After Tokyo, what was your reaction when you look back at it in terms of what you were going to go on to
Determination.
do?
I mean, that's when I invited Shaw to come to Australia so I could beat him in a 5. Determination that probably not doing so well in Tokyo helped me break world records in 65, because I went back determined to run better than ever.
You've dismissed that in the line. You broke 11 world records in 1965.
Well, not really, because the records were soft. I mean, they were soft records and they were brought up to it. I was starting to reach my peak of what I could do, and the tracks were all cinders, remember, at that stage.
Cinders which on one memorable July evening at the White City burned beneath his feet. In all, he ran 52 races that year, winning 37 of them. And the True Athlete's Challenge, to improve a personal best, sent records tumbling.
It's easier to break world records when you're in that form, in a succession of races, than it is to run mediocre times, one after the other. In other words, the fitter you are, the more you can do, the quicker you recover from an effort. So I break a world record on a Tuesday. I could run another one within 2 days. And I think Seb Coe and Henry Rayno have all proved this after. It's not such a good trick as breaking a world record when you're in form, but when you're not in so good a form, people say, oh, well, you should better run next day. And you can't, because it's really taken out of you, again, because of the same formula.
Beautiful stride, still absolutely relaxed and doesn't look in any kind of pain at all. You're watching track history being made. Can Clarke go it alone? Can he do it? The time at the bell
was 11:51.3.
The crowd going mad. He must break the world record. He must become the first man ever to get inside 14 minutes for 3 miles. 13 minutes rather for 3 miles. He must do it.
The world record is 13 minutes 00.4.
Even runners who dropped out of the race are racing across the centre of the arena to cheer him on. Ron Clarke, 220 yards now from the world record, from breaking his own world record. Looking round, coming into the straight, we'll give you the countdown. The record stands at 13 minutes and 4/10 of a second. He's got 60 yards left, and here he goes.
And the time is 12 minutes, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52.
He's just sliced the world record apart. He's absolutely...
You knocked down certain barriers, I mean, like 3 miles in under 13 minutes and so on. But was that important to you?
No. I mean, they're just artificial type barriers. I would have liked to run, I always thought it was capable. I would have liked to run 5,000 metres under 13 minutes, which I think is very possible. I would have liked to run 10,000 metres under 27 minutes, which I think I could have got close to. And I think with these tracks now, they should be under around 26 and a half, 26:40, 2:13:20s, 5,000 metres should never be beyond them.
So you're saying that since you retired, that the times have not come down as they should have?
No, they have only improved the length of the track. I mean, the track has now changed, I reckon, to be improved by a second a lap. And the records only come down by 20-odd seconds. I think that there's no mental drive of actually getting out there and doing it. They're relying on too many artificial things, artificial pacemaking, all these sorts of things. Instead of getting out and saying, go, they're all worrying about what we can do and time restrictions, limitations. There's no taking the mind away and the inhibitions of the mind, getting out and doing it.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love
Dawn on the Caribbean, the Commonwealth Games of Kingston, Jamaica, in August 1966.
Everything
everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an
Clarke's moment
adjective.
in
I
the
got a
sun was
vendetta
not to be.
against people who
The
patent
Kenyan
it.
saw to that. First
Ron Clarke, Australia second.
I raced Kip, I think, 52 times, and he beat me one more than I'd beat him, or vice versa. It was very close in the end. But he won the good ones.
Now, when you took on Keino and the growing band of Africans again, and we moved on to the 1968 Mexico Olympics, it was all rather different.
I had no chance then. I mean, it was going to be Tamu or Waldy or anyone from a high altitude. One or the other would have beat me.
And you're a little bit bitter about that?
I'm maybe bitter because the people in the Olympics don't know anything about the Olympics. I mean, to me, the Olympic movement is such a beautiful movement because it's the only chance for everybody to be able to compete, meet each other. And I love the Olympic Games villages when you can actually get across and meet people from all different walks of life. The main thing of games is to provide a fair competition for everybody in the world. I mean, there's going to be always some little favourites. I mean, if you compete in your home country, you're going to have an advantage. You compete in Europe, Europeans got an advantage against Americans. So you have to share it around a bit. Okay, I admit all that. But you don't go to altitude. You don't go to the desert to run it. You don't go to altitude to run it. You don't do it where some particular race has got a tremendous advantage. Again, it doesn't. The sprints is a big advantage to everybody because they'll perform better. But there's no unequalness about it. In distance running, it's unequal. Those from altitude have got, 10,000 metres, 2-lap start. And I couldn't give Tamu and Waldy and Keino and everybody else 2-lap start.
Clarke in fourth place at the moment, but moving out so he's not going to be blocked. Keino Kenya leads. Wold, Ethiopia second. Gamudi, Tunisia third. Clarke, Australia fourth. Three of the first best four men in Tokyo battling for the medals run fourth. And Ron Clarke is dropped. Clarke's out of touch and he looks as if he'll never do it now. Clarke's possible last chance of an Olympic medal disappearing. Up the men now. 80 yards and it's Keino attacking. Keino and Kenya against World Ethiopia. And Keino is going to take the gold medal. Kenya's going to get it. And World is beaten. Keino wins. The Commonwealth champion wins. And second place was World. Third is Gamudi. Fourth is Martinez. Fifth place is Viradov. And in sixth place is Ron Clarke, going back all the time.
When Brian Corrigan, the doctor, came over to you at the end of the 10,000 metres, do you think that there was a moment when he thought you were going to die, or indeed had died?
Yeah, he's not a real emotional guy, and he'd broken down, as I saw later. I didn't obviously know at the time. And he'd saw me go from grey, the normal Mexican fainting grey colour, to green, which he thought was pretty dangerous. So to get there, he had to really, he wasn't on the field. He had to jump a moat, fight off a few policemen and actually get there. I was lucky I took so long in the last lap, he would never have made it, And the Mexicans were saying, there's no problem, and they wouldn't have been too worried about it.
A picture which remains an indictment of the International Olympic Committee. How could they have decided that Mexico City would offer a fair test of Olympic prowess? As to why Clarke ran again in the heats and final of the 5,000 metres, his answer is disarmingly simple.
Yeah, if you're in Olympic Games, you compete. I mean, that's what you're there for. It's boring otherwise. But I was pretty careful with the 5,000.
The 10,000 metres at Mexico City, had it been run at sea level, would have been the easiest 10,000 metres to win probably in the history of the Olympic Games, because they weren't good runners. I was about a minute ahead of anybody else in the world at that stage, so I could have tripped over almost and got up. Now, I'm not going to say that I would have won the gold medal because things happen in Olympic Games, but I would have had to be an awful fool not to have won it.
It is now October 13th, 1968, the final of the 10,000 metre run. world record holder Ron Clarke knows where the opposition will be. The runners from the high-altitude countries of Kenya and Ethiopia. Kip Keino and Naftali Temu of Kenya are longtime rivals of Clarke. Mama Wolde leads a three-man contingent from Ethiopia. From Tunisia, there is Mohamed Gamoudi, who won the silver medal in Tokyo 4 years before. In all, there are 37 runners from 23 countries who will have to travel the 400-meter track 25 times before the race is finished. At the 5,000-meter mark, the lead has changed many times, but with the race half over, the scenario for the last act has already been written. As expected, Keino and Temu of Kenya are having no trouble with the Mexico City atmosphere. Mama Wolde of Ethiopia feels at home, but Ron Clarke is laboring in the high altitude. To him, the chances of a gold medal are over the day it is announced that the Olympic Games are awarded to Mexico City. With 3 laps to go, it is Wolde, Ethiopia, Clarke, Australia, Temu, Kenya, and Gamoudi, Tunisia. With 800 meters to go, Temu of Kenya makes a bid. He takes the lead from Wolde. Clarke has nothing left. For him, the last 2 laps will be a nightmare. With 1 lap to go, Mama Wolde takes the lead back from Temu. With 50 meters to go, Temu again passes Mama Wolde. Temu, Kenya first. Wolde, Ethiopia second. Gamoudi, Tunisia third. In 6th place, Ron Clarke. He falls unconscious at the finish line. For a few minutes, there is fear for his life.
I remember going to put on my knees, and then I remember the next thing I remember is the doctor, Brian Corrigan, bending over me and swearing at somebody.
4 days later, still weak from his harrowing experience in the 10,000 meters, Ron Clarke comes back for the 5,000-meter run. He stays in contention until the final 2 laps. Then he falters. Going into the final turn, Kip Keino of Kenya in 3rd place moves past his teammate Naftali Temu and challenges Mohamed Gamoudi of Tunisia for the lead. Gamoudi, Tunisia first, Keino, Kenya second, Temu, Kenya third. In 5th place, Ron Clarke, Australia. So Ron Clarke's career was over without ever winning an Olympic or Commonwealth Games gold medal. It is ironic that Ron Clarke, perhaps the greatest middle distance runner in history, holder of 21 world records, received the greatest vocal acclaim of his entire career on a day he did not compete. The opening day of the Melbourne Olympic Games of 1956.
Being dismissed as a man who could beat the clock, but who couldn't win races, really annoys you, doesn't it?
That annoys me a bit, yeah, because my whole philosophy was racing and not beating the clock. But I liked to put everything, all the cards in the deck when I ran. I threw everything in, and occasionally it meant that I also beat the clock as well as everybody else.
But you didn't win the medals that you should have?
No, I didn't have a chance to win the medals. I don't know whether I would have or wouldn't have, but in Mexico City, which is the criteria, I don't think I had a chance to find out. Otherwise, I was pretty happy. I've beaten on my merits in most of the other races.
But you have, in fact, got 1 gold medal, and that was given you by Emil Zátopek.
Well, he's a guy like Landy. I mean, the philosophy I like about about Landy was always Zátopek's philosophy too, and that is get in, put everything into it, run your races to your best, and also help your opposition where you can, because you want to beat them at their best. And Emil was that way, and it's a fabulous story. I don't know if we've got time to hear it, but Emil was the king of Prague, and he talked me into going into... I didn't like to run behind the Iron Curtain countries because they took it all so seriously, and they fed you the wrong meals, and I was pretty fussy about my meals, etc. So I flew in the day of a race, and Emil met me at the airport. He took me to this little place which was about 40 minutes outside Prague, where he ran this fabulous 20,000 metre record, 2 consecutive 10,000 metres faster than anybody else in the world at that stage had run 10,000. It really was a nice place, and took me through the fire, apologising how unfit he was, and he gave me the hardest workout I'd had during the whole trip. Then took me back into town to shop. He said, you must get some crystal before you catch the plane, and parked outside this main shopping, the real main thoroughfare of Prague, where nobody else is parked. We went inside and we came out, and here's this policeman. They're everywhere making the docket, traffic docket, parking docket, and saw Zata got within about 5 yards of him, saw who it was, face lights up, turns the book around, tears up the docket, shakes Emil by the hand. Emil signs his book for him, and Emil gets in the car, does a U-turn in front of him, traffic halts, screeches to a halt, drives up over another main road and parks again where you're not supposed to park, obviously. Pulls into the side of the road, and another traffic policeman about 100 metres up goes red in the face and blows a whistle, and Zátopek just waves at him, and the bloke gets mad as hell, comes tearing, thundering down as Zátopek says, no, let's go in, don't worry about him, and just catches us as we're going in the shop. But again, got to within 5 minutes, and then saw it was Emil, and it went from thunderous repose to excitement, and shook Emil by the hand. A few words of animated conversation. We went in the shop, thing over, and Emil said again, don't worry about it, take your time, there's no problem. So we looked away, and I kept on looking outside and worrying. But anyway, we got out of about half an hour because it was a nice shop, found some crystal, went outside, car's gone. And then we looked up, and Emil was very good at this whistle with his, through his fingers and his teeth, and he whistled, and the policeman who'd parked the car for him got back in the car and drove it back again, parked the car. Now, I reckon you've arrived when that happens to you in your hometown. And that's how Emil was revered by everybody. He was fantastic. And then he went through the customs. He's the only man who could walk through customs in Czechoslovakia, like all Iron Curtain countries. They check you coming in and going out, both ways. And Emil just walked straight through it. He went onto the plane with me anyway, and he shook me by the hand. And when he shook me by the hand, he said, you deserve this. And he put it was a little box in my hand as it shook. And I thought I was smuggling something to the country for him, some sort of message, thinking, Iron Curtain country, Emil must have some message he wants to give me out. So I didn't look at it. I just said, thanks very much, thanks for your time. Put it in my pocket, and I didn't open it until we'd passed the border in the plane. I squeezed it open, and here's this gold medal, and he just signed it for me. I mean, that's the sort of guy he was, and I revere it not because it's a gold medal, but because it's an Emil Zátopek gold medal. It's fantastic.